All the materials you see here are all mine, so feel free to ask questions if you have.
Hello to my travel friends far and near, if you're here in the Philippines or outside. Welcome back to my channel. Today we will be talking about the differences between the Philippines and in Vietnam. If you have been a subscriber to my channel, you might have noticed that I set up a poll in my community to get a grasp of what would be the topic specifically you wanted to know between Vietnam. And here you can see, I will put it on the screen, that it is between the difference on this country. So Vietnam and the Philippines is located here in Southeast Asia. So if you have travel plans or if you are weighing options where you have to go, maybe some of the points here would probably help you. So if you're ready, let's start with the first. Before I will mention the first difference that I have noted is that I want to give you a quick overview. I have been to Vietnam like about 6-7 times, both for leisure and for work. I've also been to the south and to the north of the country, and also to an island which is like off the mainland Vietnam. It's called Phu Quoc. So all of these photos and videos, I will go through it towards the rest of the video. But first is that if you are traveling, generally speaking, Vietnam is cheaper than in the Philippines. In terms of accommodation, the things or activities that you do as a tourist when you visit sites or when you do activity like dinner cruise in the Saigon River. So for example, I've only paid like about 20 US dollars, like 1,000 peso or even less, for a dinner cruise with transportation in Saigon sometime in 2016. So I'll put some photos here that we had. It was a 4-course meal, entree, like 2 meals in between, and a dessert. And there was music, and I think it's all worth it if I would say it. Like it's almost, I would say, cheap. And for you not on the region, maybe you're earning in dollars, maybe not so much of the difference, but on a general scope, it would be, for me, still cheaper. And you can also do tours which are for free. Why is it we're free? Like how do they earn it? Usually there are volunteer groups that does this like free tour, and then you just give them like kind of tip or voluntary thing that you give to them. So there's really no specific margin how much you give. And I did this twice in Ho Chi Minh. What I tapped was Tales and Trails, if I'm not mistaken. I will link it below through TripAdvisor. And I did a one trip tour with Tintin, I can still remember his name, when I was in Dalat in the northern part, not the northern, but in like elevated part of Vietnam where they grow flowers. It's like an equivalent of Baguio if you are in the Philippines. So general cost, Vietnam is. Number 2, the ease of transportation. So between Vietnam and the Philippines is an archipelago, just like Indonesia. It is quite challenging to go from one place to the other. But in Vietnam, it is a big country, although there are still islands outside of the mainland. But generally, it is way more, I would say, pleasurable experience in terms of transportation. What I say is that, of course, aside from it is cheaper, which is I covered in the first part of the differences, it is a place where you can have options. So first, you can easily rent a motorbike if you have a driver's license and if you are confident to drive through Vietnamese street. Well, you gotta see it for yourself. Maybe I can pull out some photos if I still have them around. And you have also options if you go for long trips, because you don't really want to stay in the city for so long and you wanted to explore, immerse yourself in their culture. Long drive or long trips are easier to have around in Vietnam because they have buses, the normal bus, typical bus that you have. They have what they call limousine, so it's like a big van. If you are in the US, maybe Ford Transit is popular, and they usually have that. And somehow similar to that car, which is a Mercedes Sprinter, is also used in this limousine transportation where you can have them around for long distance trips like 5-hour trip or 7-hour trip out of somewhere. There's also an option which is one of our favorite, the sleeper bus. So it's a kind of mini bus or an actual bus, but you have to lie down and you can like sleep, and there's a blanket, it's comfortable, and it's air conditioned. And some of these buses also have Wi-Fi connection, so you can still, you know, be connected while on travel. So the rates between the taxis in different areas also differ. So the rate of the taxi flag down rate in the city might not be the same if you go to Phuket or to elsewhere. Grab is available. At that time, there was still Uber. So before Uber and Grab merged themselves a few years back in Southeast Asia. So that was also an option. And of course, the train, which is not here in the Philippines for long distance really travel. Well, it's in Manila, but it is designed for city transit. Like PNR, I think, goes a little bit north, but compared to Vietnam, it's really like from province to province. So that is still an option for you if you wanted kind of a bit slow, if you wanted to see around. So that is an option. So transportation, I would say, is better. There are domestic flights as well if you go from north to south or some areas which is like a little bit far to drive off. I have tried also Vietjet, which is one of their local budget carrier. It was a good experience in general. So if you're from the Philippines, it's just like a Cebu Pacific. But yeah, it goes through major destinations in Vietnam and with an affordable rate. So transportation would be on number 2. Number 3 is more on religion. So if you are into a bit of history and orientation in terms of religion, generally Vietnamese, or a lot of them, are Buddhist. So you would see more on Buddhist shrine, or they light up an incense, have food outside, than in the Philippines, which is predominantly Catholic and a lot of Catholic churches. So there are also Catholic churches in Vietnam. Like if you're Catholic and that is something important to you, there are Catholic churches because of course of the French influence before, but not as much as in the Philippines. So if you are interested in these things, might be a little bit challenging for you if you a little bit go out of countryside. But I have been to a Catholic church in Dalat when I was there. I spent some Christmas, but the mass is in Vietnamese, so you might want to take a look at it. If I know that there are people who are very mindful in terms of the places where they go because they wanted to practice their religion. So that's the third. Fourth one, which I think is important to some of the tourists, is the ability to speak in English. Now, the English communication generally in Southeast Asia, I think, has improved for the past 10 years in terms of communicating, at least on the tourist or business level. In Vietnam, it might still be a challenge if you go a little bit of outskirt in Ho Chi Minh City, where there are growing and thriving businesses. There's no problem that I had encountered in my years of exploring the city. But when you go a little bit north, in Hanoi, that was already a bit of a challenge compared to Ho Chi Minh. So a quick story, I was on a taxi from the airport, and then from the airport, I did not know that the hotel that we're going to is not in the main road. So it needs some walk from the alley, like about 100-meter walk, and then turn left. So instead of the driver explaining that, like, you know, you need to drop off here and go to this alley, turn left, and then you see your hotel, we were more on the sign language. And, you know, we are in Hanoi, we are in the north. But this is nothing, I would say, you know, something lacking or missing. It's just, you know, describing, it's just the way it is. There's beauty in everything. And this is just a personal experience that I wanted to share. So it was just like here and like a sign of you have to walk. So it was a bit of a challenge, but not really major. But that is just something that is quite a difference, because here almost everybody speaks at least basic English and can communicate well if situations like this arise. So coming up, another difference that I have noted is that Vietnamese love their parks, loves their flowers, and this is one of the major reason why I keep on coming to their country, even if I have an option to go to Laos, to Cambodia again, to East Timor, because we are part of the Southeast Asian country. I don't have to get a visa to visit these countries. But again, one of the major reasons that my heart is there because of their flowers and parks. If you have been to Ho Chi Minh before they start building the underground tunnel, I think they're currently building that in District 1. There were a number of parks that is full of hibiscus, well manicured parks, even in front of their local market. So if you have been to Lay Lam Street, where the Starbucks in District 1 is, not so far from Bu Vien. Bu Vien is like a Khao San road if you are traveling in Thailand. So not so far from there are a lot of big parks that you can walk, sit, and there are pigeons also around. So there are students that are sitting there peacefully. Nobody's harassing you like, give me money, give me something like this. So Bendicancy is also, I think, a crime in Vietnam, if I'm not mistaken. So since they are a communist country, I think they really uphold their rules really seriously. So begging is not allowed in the city. So if there are still beggars, if you may, but there are selling out of something like even a kind of card that they kind of sell to you to in exchange just for the name of a transaction. So that is something I also find a bit peaceful, that I can sit there in the morning and just meditate, hear the birds, and you are in the middle of the city. So most of the hotel that I checked in Vietnam is just in District 1, because in District 1 you can get everything. You can go to Cambodia and from your hotel door being picked up by a bus and then to Cambodia immediately. So no need of major transfers or a lot of things to consider and go to a terminal. Like that is possible. So your front desk can just call a bus, just pay, the bus will pick you up and then will bring you to Cambodia. That relates to the transportation that I have mentioned in terms of differences. So there's a lot of parks that they've been very well maintained regardless of where you go. In Vung Tau, next to the seawall, was a very clean park. It's like a promenade. I think it's called a promenade. So there are places like that, even public places, which is so clean. Well, it's not so clean maybe as Singapore, but definitely I would consider it more enjoyable walk in the park literally experience than in the Philippines. Another difference is like, if you are a coffee lover, Vietnam is one of the best place for you. Good luck. Because they are the second largest producer of coffee in the world next to Brazil. Trivia. So in Vietnam, coffee is relatively cheaper, of course, than here in the Philippines, which I don't know why we're not really growing coffee, because coffee grows in the Philippines. I mean, we have coffee plantations here, but it's not as much as the production in Vietnam, that they also take their coffee seriously. It is a coffee country. A lot of homestays and a lot of small family-owned shops, which is my favorite, to be in a family-owned place, because I think it's kind of homey. You would have a variety of options in terms of coffee. My favorite is cafe soda. So coffee, I'm not sure if I guess I'm not pronouncing it well, I'm not sure how, but it's cafe soda. It's like coffee with milk. So it's like a strong coffee with condensed milk with lots of ice, and it's really refreshing, puts a boost in your brain, and it is tasty in general, but usually they serve it traditionally to you. So this is how it is usually being served in a traditional way. So I got this in Vietnam. So you have your cup there, you have your mug, and you put it on top, and you put it like this. Bring your coffee in, put hot water, and then you can like cover it like that, so it would be like it would serve as like a coffee drip. So this is so fun. Usually you get this when you buy coffee. I usually buy heaps, loads of coffee in Vietnam. Even my friends are asking me to buy, because again, it's reasonable, it is aromatic, because you have option Robusta, Civet and Arabica and whatnot, their local coffee. So it is a place for coffee lover. Again, you can enjoy it either in the beach. I think I have some photos in the beach, or you can enjoy it overlooking the mountain. So for that case, coffee, you can just get it anywhere, and usually with a cozy place, because that is like kind of their lifestyle, and I like it. And also usually coffee goes in a coffee shop or in a place where you sit, right? And internet connection in Vietnam is way much better, like way much better in the Philippines, even in the island, not in the mainland. Another difference that I have noted, this could probably be the last difference that I can think of, would be their food serving of vegetable. Yes, in the Philippines, we love our lechon, chicharon, caldereta, and all this usually meaty, not so good for your hypertension food, let's just say. But in Vietnam, they love all their veggies. So even if you ordered a fried chicken in a local shop that is usually being seated or laid flat in a lettuce. So banh mi, for example, is one of my favorite dish in Vietnam. You can just get it for like 20 Vietnamese dong or 10,000 Vietnamese dong, which is like about 22 pesos. So it's so cheap. And I bought a banh mi here in one of the malls. It's like 250. It's like $5. It's like, no way. But anyway, their leaves, their love of greens and veggies is very much evident in their food. Their pho with lots of side greens, from coriander to what they call Vietnamese basil, and a lot more usually on the side. So you can give you option to mix it in your soup, or you just like eat it the way it is as a side green. But generally their love of vegetables are there, that you can see it. So I can pull out like some of the videos or photos that I had gained throughout the year. And by the way, Jollibee, for you Jollibee lovers, Jollibee is in Vietnam, even in the mountainside of the lot. Like this is, I don't know, 2,000 meters high up, about, I don't know, 700 kilometers from the main city, but in the middle of nowhere. Like, you know, you need to pass by all this fields of coffee and fields of like just nothingness. But in the middle of that mountain, there's a Jollibee. So no worries for you Filipino right there, Jollibee lovers. Jollibee is in Vietnam. So another difference is that compared to the Philippines, that we have a national language, but when you go to Ilocos Sur, somewhere in La Union, you speak Ilocano, and if you go to the Central Visayas in Cebu, you speak Cebuano. Then if you go to Surigao, there's also Surigao, and if you go to the West, you speak Hiligaynon. Like there's like different languages, and also the cuisine changes in a way that what is conducive to that place to grow. Do you know what I'm saying? So in Vietnam, they seem to be a very similar, if you call that lack of term, like very similar to everything from north to south. They speak the same language. They use chopsticks compared here in the Philippines where they use spoon and fork. And they, in terms of practices, they are more very similar than if you travel in the Philippines north and south. Like we are just like a little bit of a different people. So these are the things that I also noticed there. Like they're kind of same but different. If you know a little bit of history about the north and south and during the Vietnamese War, you might wanted to check on that further. If you are in Ho Chi Minh in District 1, there is a war museum, so you would see the entire culture and how they've become together, and how does it affect and what is Vietnam right now. So I highly recommend that you visit that place if you are in Ho Chi Minh. Bonus information, if you wanted to go through the entire travel in Vietnam, there are a lot of areas where different personalities really would feel that they would love the place. If you're a city, of course, if you're a city boy, city girl, I think there's a little bit of touristy action in the south than in Hanoi. So Hanoi is like the seat of government of Vietnam, and in the south, it's more like really highly business and lots of tourism, because that's where usually people took off to go to the center, like in Cat Ba, or if they wanted to go to Vung Tau area in the south. So the more of a touristy action, I would say, is in the south. But I love the north because it's colder. So they can experience really about winter time. No snowing in Hanoi, but in Sapa, the northern part of Vietnam, which is kind of near to China, experience snow in some winter times. So yeah, I just love the feeling of being in a place where it's refreshing and you can get strawberries, and in the morning I'm not really sweating compared here in the Philippines and in the south, because Cebu and Ho Chi Minh more or less have the same weather. If you check it in the equator, more or less like the same, but it is just more humid here because like we're in an island. We are not in a big kind of continent or the big landmass area. So there you go. I hope it gives you some input and you enjoy the rest of the photos and the videos towards the end. Just strolling around the beach alone.